In the UK, lockdown has been extended by another 4 weeks. When we finally thought we were out, they pulled us back in. Former government advisor Dominic Cummings has released a slew of text messages between himself and the leader of our country that reveal the level of incompetence, buffoonery, skullduggery, nitwittery and bad language that goes on at the top level of government, and leaves me asking, is this the way a country should be run at any time, let alone during a time of crisis? The reason this story's got so much juice is, of course, because in this country, unlike elsewhere in the world, lockdown is continuing. We were so close to it being over. If you look in America and other countries, people are walking around freely, maskless, touching each other, spitting in cups and swapping. I don't know about the last one, they're probably not doing things like that. Nonetheless, it's kind of galling to find out that these ongoing restrictions are as a result of incompetence, not the inevitable. Marry that with the potential truth that it emerged from a lab in Wuhan. Science caused it. Incompetence that government prolongs it. What kind of world are we inhabiting? Furthermore, what's fascinating about this story, if you're not a UK resident, is Dominic Cummings is a former government advisor and was at one time regarded as the most powerful man in the country. And Boris Johnson, much like many leaders across the world, is regarded as a kind of somewhat charming but ultimately sort of oddly boorish and buffoonish kind of character. And these revelations really confirm what most people think of him. On Wednesday, Dominic Cummings, the Prime Minister's former chief aide, published a slew of texts and documents from emergency Cobra meetings that said he would combat what he called lies from Downing Street about the initial handling of the pandemic. Cummings published texts from the Prime Minister calling his Health Minister, Matt Hancock, totally fucking hopeless. Subsequently doorstepped by broadcasters and asked if he was hopeless, Hancock replied, "I don't think so." "Do you think you're fucking hopeless?" "Oh, not really. I've tried my best. Is it the pyjamas?" Of course, Matt Hancock was setting up contracts for friends of his to produce PPE, so not only is it ineptitude and fucking hopelessness, but also corruption. In a sense, the presentation of this as something jaunty, playful, comedic and hapless distracts us from, even though I'm right now participating in it, from the fact that this is corruption, is what we're actually talking about. Further details about how Boris Johnson carries on behind closed doors are sort of fascinating because they're so close to what you would expect Boris Johnson would behave like. In his post, Dominic Cummings said Johnson told rambling stories and jokes during emergency meetings. Emergency meeting! Everyone gather around! Great, come on, what are we going to do? Well, okay, there's a rabbi, a vicar, and a stripper. No, wait a minute, it's an imam. An imam, a stripper, and a rabbi. And a vicar. No, wait, hold on. No, there's a parrot. Now, the parrot, what's it called? Oh, bloody hell. In an emergency meeting, if you're going to do a joke to, I don't know, puncture the atmosphere, go for a succinct one-liner, I would say. And he also refused to ask officials awkward questions. The joke, was it too rambling? What's going on in these meetings? I suppose what this does for me is it confirms my sort of general suspicion, not suspicion, intuitive understanding, that they're human beings. They're human beings. And all of the stuff that we kind of assume, whether people's backgrounds are corporate, financial, as in the financial industry, or if they come through public schools and are kind of groomed politicians, that they carry that baggage with them. They carry those assumptions of power with them. And in their positions of public office, they're not behaving studiously and diligently, like, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about human lives? They're not motivated by that, but by these kind of odd, Machiavellian, mendacious, self-interested, glib, flippant kind of attitudes that you would anticipate in a comedic rendering of reality rather than in reality itself, which makes me think that the problems are sort of structural. And I don't mean just structural as in bipartisan democracy, but I mean the structures that underwrite it, the judicial, legal, financial and education pyramid that underwrites those power structures. If people come funneled in through those schools and those kind of jobs and those kind of universities to sort of pop out on the green leather benches and oak panelled walls of power, that you're going to get people that don't take it seriously, that can't take it seriously, that can't connect to people where they're at. These are not the leaders for these times, not the corporatized, pinstripe, wonkish people in America, whether they're from the blue side or the red side. And in this country, just the same thing. You don't want people steeped in legal professionalism or people that are lacquered up in Eton. You want people that are the same as you. He also said said, if Number 10 is prepared to lie so deeply and widely about issues of life and death last year, it cannot be trusted now, either on COVID or any other crucial issue of war and peace, he wrote. Now, obviously, Dominic Cummings is somewhat a man with an axe to grind, and you can see from the way he's carrying out this campaign, he understands how power, PR, media operate, dropping out these bomb mots and backstabs left and right, slowly, death of 1,000 cuts for Boris Johnson, who, in my speculation, of course, entirely, is that he must be bricking himself, because presumably, if Boris Johnson behaves like that, I imagine there are a great deal of inappropriate expressions, text messages that are inappropriate in all sorts of social and political arenas. Dominic Cummings must be sitting on dynamite, I would say. Cummings goes on, Hancock continues to have direct responsibility for things like dealing with variants and care homes. Having such a Secretary of State in a key role is a guaranteed disaster. It's urgent for public safety that he's removed. Obviously, Cummings don't like Hancock, but the fact is that these revelations come out at a time where lockdown is being extended. Most people feel that lockdown is being extended as a result of the Indian or Delta variant. Boris had been desperate to keep travel between the UK and India open for as long as possible so his official visit could go ahead. And in the time up to April 23rd, when all flights were cancelled, 20,000 passengers had flown into the UK. That's the real fact that delayed lockdown. Yes, incompetent leaders and idiocy, but the decisions they're making can be clarified in this manner. They could have closed that border. They didn't close that border. They didn't close it for the wrong reasons. And as a result of that, 20,000 people, presumably many of whom were carrying this variant because it got here somehow. And as a result, 4 more weeks of this. You can't have such draconian measures placed on the domestic population while allowing international travel. It doesn't make sense. It's bad management. It's either negligent, idiotic, or deliberate. But back to Dominic Cummings. He said Johnson had been encouraging ministers to give false accounts to Parliament. I mean, that's just delightful, isn't it? What a delightful bit of go on, give a false account. Give one. Well, who to? Parliament! That is the last thing you should be doing as the leader of a country, encouraging ministers to give false accounts to Parliament. Deep, wide lies, false accounts. Now, the source of this information is Dominic Cummings, who undoubtedly has an agenda, and I wouldn't be recounting it here to you, especially knowing many of you are American, if it weren't for the fact that we know that's reality. You know that. It's not like, who hears this stuff and goes, what? Boris Johnson? Telling long rambling jokes? Matt Hancock, incompetent, not closing the borders to India even though it was clear it would be expedient and beneficial to do so. My dreams, my precious dreams of democracy and our leaders. No, we all know it anyway. These people operate in a way that should not afford them the rarefied air as if they know stuff we don't and ought to be in a position to make decisions that we're somehow extracted from. He said Johnson intended to quit 2 years after the next election in order to make money and move on from politics. No, not what? No, but has any other political leader done that? David Cameron or Barack Obama? Not just be in politics as a kind of shop front so that you can then go off and all the relationships you made while in government, exploit those commercially. No one always surprised that Boris Johnson is in politics as a sort of an expedient necessary and almost taken for granted move. You're born, you go into politics, you make money, you die. That's the pathway. The unfortunate fact for us is that many other people die as a result of the time that Boris Johnson spends in politics. In another series of WhatsApp messages released by Cummings, Johnson apparently told his aide on 27th of April that PPE procurement was a disaster, adding, I can't think of anything except taking Hancock off and putting Gove on. This is the kind of way that I'm thinking when I'm playing like Football Manager on a computer, not even a real group of footballers. Oh, should I start with Harry Kane? This is real people's lives. Wherever you fall on the COVID argument, where you think it came from, the severity of it, what your attitude is towards pharmaceutical companies, vaccines, wherever you fall on any of that, look for this point of union. The people that are making the decisions on your behalf are making them badly and negligently. That you have more in common with people right on the other side of any political axis or prism than you have with the people governing you. In fact, we should no longer be distracted by that discourse. We should think only, are there better ways of finding solutions to the problems we're facing than put it through the funnel of bumbling idiots that currently are at the mouth of this disaster? Going into more detail about the meetings, Cummings said, when the Prime Minister chaired important meetings, he would ramble and tell jokes. As soon as things get a bit embarrassing, he does the whole let's take it offline shtick before shouting forward to victory, doing a thumbs up and pegging it out of the room before anybody can disagree. That's like having Benny Hill in charge of the country. Oh, well, never mind. Royal Britannia. Way! Can't run a country based on catchphrases. It's ridiculous. It's like Boris Johnson is a cartoon of Boris Johnson. I liked him when he was doing Have I Got News For You. I even thought it was quite funny when he was doing stuff with buses around Brexit. I thought, wow, man, this is a crazy little spectacle. But now, the actual decisions are being made that affect the lives and indeed deaths of ordinary people. We gain only this from it. A clear moment where a kind of an eclipse of the bullshit and propaganda occurs, and we can see for one perfect moment, this is reality. This is what you're dealing with. So the onus is not on them, the Hancocks, the Johnsons, the political figures in your country, because they're just doing what they're programmed and conditioned and systemized to do. The onus is on us. What kind of values do we have? What kind of principles do we want to live by? What kind of reality do you want to inhabit? I don't think you can solve these problems by deifying or elevating individuals. I think you have to elevate entire communities. I think you have to explore and elevate new systems. It's not like, oh, this guy will save us. You know, that's not going to be the answer. Principles, not personalities, is the solution to this current problem. If you liked that, why don't you give it a Boris Johnson style, hey, thumbs up, and give it a Royal Britannia, hey, subscribe, and turn on the clanging bell of, hello, the lunatics have taken over the asylum, turn on your notifications. If you want more information directly from me, go over to russellbrand.com and sign up, get my mailing list. I'm doing live shows and stuff like that in the south of the UK at the moment. And if you've got any comments, put your comments down. We read them and have a communication with each other and be nice to one another down there, even if you disagree with each other. It doesn't matter, does it? Doesn't matter what you think you believe in. Tune into your deeper self, find the inner wisdom, and then express that through reality, and we may have a chance. Otherwise, it seems like we could be fucked. Anyway, oh no, sorry, let's not get involved in that. Hey, listen, I had a lovely joke about a rabbi.